What's going on, everybody? Top 10 Pokemon back, bringing you another exciting rendition of our Pokemon card auctions of the week recap. Folks, the big talk of this week's recap will be the Pikachu Van Gogh promo card has hit some new record prices as a PSA 10. One particular sale will make your jaw drop. Trust me. We'll also be going over tons of sealed product, both vintage and modern, a couple of insane promo card sales. If this is the first time you're watching the weekly auction recap, you picked an excellent video to start watching. There's a lot of stuff to go over, so stay tuned till the very end. After today's recap, folks, go over to lowpopping.com and check out the multitude of investment-worthy Pokemon cards they have for sale. If you're looking for a reliable and trustworthy seller in this hobby, which can be a challenge nowadays, and are looking for authentic Pokemon card grails to purchase, go over to lowpopping.com, where they have tons of graded Pokemon cards and sealed product, a lot of which you won't find anywhere else. And don't forget, if you don't have the cash on hand, you can trade for or make offers on just about anything you see. And they also have buy now, pay later options available for anything above $1,000 for you to take advantage of as well. Folks, support this channel by going to lowpopping.com and seeing what they have available for you to purchase today. And if you do buy yourself something, please message me on Instagram and let me know what you picked up. I always love hearing from you guys. A link to their website will be in the description of this video. Alright folks, let's start this recap off with some graded Surging Sparks. We saw a lot of graded cards from this set come by. Here is the Latios EX Special Illustration Rare. Arguably the second most desired card in this set. Sold as a PSA 10 this week for $870. Another PSA 10 sold for $960. And then we saw both the Latios Illustration Rare and the Latios SIR sell as sequential PSA 10s for $1,350 this week. Here we have the regular Pikachu EX that came down a bit this week, selling as a PSA 10 for $227. Here is the ultra rare Pikachu EX that sold for $154. And then here we have the hyper rare Pikachu EX that sold for $510, again for about $580, and then once more for about $590 this week. And then here we have the most popular card of this set and probably of the year, the Pikachu EX Special Illustration Rare, sold as a PSA 10 for $1,300, and then again for $1,276 this week. Now on to this little number right here, the PSA 10 Pikachu Van Gogh promo card is defying all logic and reason once again this week, except on steroids. Here's a PSA 10 that sold in auction for $460, another one that sold for $465, and then check this out, folks. Here is a buy it now copy that was listed for $600 and sold for $600. Yes, this is a paid for sale, folks. This card has a current PSA 10 population of 31,215 copies. That's PSA 10s alone, and this number continues to climb day by day. Where is the ceiling for this card? I have no idea. Like I said, this card defies all logic and all reason. It's just pure carnal urge for people to try to get this card. I don't know. I have no explanation for it. Let me know what you think. Up next, we have this CGC 10 Pristine Charmander from the Obsidian Flames Elite Trainer box. This card typically goes as a PSA 10 for about $120 to $130, but as a CGC 10, it sold this week for about $192. Here we have an autographed Magikarp from Paldea Evolved. The autograph got a 8, but the card itself got a 10, and this card sold for $1,275. Here we have a Tag 10 Greninja EX SIR. We don't see a lot of tag cards come through, but this example sold for about $560. And then on to the Moonbreon VMAX, which is hitting new record prices as well. Here's a PSA 10 copy that sold for $1,900. Another PSA 10 that sold for $1,996. So, what, basically a $2,000 card now, folks, as a 10? Unbelievable. Here we have a couple of BGS 10 Modern Grails. Here is a Giratina V alt art from Lost Origin, sold this week for $1,228. Here's a BGS 10 Charizard V from Brilliant Stars, sold for $610. Here we have the BGS-10 Lugia V from Silver Tempest, sold for $1,027, while the black labeled Japanese copy of this card sold for $3,200. And then here we have a BGS-10 Mewtwo GX from Shining Legends that sold for $1,525. A couple of cards from the XY era. Here is a Mega Mewtwo EX from Breakthrough that sold as a PSA 10 for $318. A Full Art Secret Rare Mewtwo from Breakthrough that sold for $492. And then here is a holographic Raichu from Evolutions that sold as a PSA 10 for $1,250. I think it's almost time to make another Evolutions video, folks. A little update on the top 10 Evolutions cards. What do you think? And speaking of Raichu, here's a base 2 copy that sold as a PSA 10 for $533. And the Cosmos Holo on these base 2 cards is just unmatched. You gotta give base 2 that. The holo is done just right on those cards. From Jungle, we have a No Symbol Vaporeon holo in PSA 10 that sold for $4,050. Here's an unlimited Dark Charizard holo from Team Rocket set that sold for $1,349. I do believe there is another Team Rocket set in the making as of right now, so that's pretty exciting. Here is a CGC-10 Pristine Blastoise holo from base set. This is the unlimited copy that sold for $2,827. And then we saw this Tag 10 first edition base set Blastoise that sold for $7,877.77. And I do believe the PSA 10 copy of this card has been selling for like a little bit over $20,000. So what do you think, folks? Is this price too much? Is it underrated, overrated? Let me know what you think of this Tag 10 Blastoise. Up next, we have a Japanese 600-point Magikarp promo card as a PSA 8. That sold for $4,416. We saw a few Gold Star cards come by. Here is a CGC 5.5 Gold Star Espeon that sold for $2,551. And then this PSA 9 Gold Star Umbreon that sold for $8,726. And then lastly, for the graded cards on eBay, here is a BGS 9 Gold Star Rayquaza that sold for $8,988. And then here we have a lot of, I believe, 24 PSA 10 Charizard cards right there. You have a couple of vintage ones up front there, a PSA 8 base set Charizard, a PSA 10 first edition Dark Charizard, and the rest, I believe, are more modern. This lot sold for a total of $2,938. On to some sealed product. We have a sealed Evolutions booster box that sold for $910 this week, along with this sealed Evolving Skies box that sold for $940. And check this out, folks. Here is a case of 6 Evolving Skies booster boxes that sold for $6,069. So that is over $1,000 a box in this case. Unbelievable. And then here we have this unlimited Team Rocket booster box that is sealed and sold for $8,500. And yeah, I think that acrylic case is a little bit much for a box like this. I think any booster box looks much better in a more fitted acrylic case, but whatever, I'm just nitpicking right now. On to the Fanatics Collect weekly auction block. We have a couple of Rayquazas. Here is a PSA 10 EX Dragon Frontiers Rayquaza that sold for $1,080. Here is a Rayquaza EX from EX Dragon that sold for $1,470. And then here is a Full Art Rayquaza EX from Roaring Skies that sold for $1,500 this week. Here from Diamond and Pearl Majestic Dawn, we have a Leafeon Holo that sold for $1,560. Here is a first edition Yellow Cheeks Pikachu from base set that sold for $1,050, while the PSA 10 Red Cheeks Pikachu sold for $3,720. And then lastly, we saw this Japanese Shining Tyranitar in PSA 10 that sold for $6,900. On to a few fantastic auctions from Alt. Here is a BGS 10 Black Label Charizard GX from Hidden Fates that sold this week for 3,962 big ones. Here we have a BGS 10 Japanese 500-point fan club promo card of Eevee that sold for $7,666. Here is a 2005 Japanese promo Spring Battle Road Victory Ring promo card in PSA 9 that sold for $8,700. Here is a Black Label XY Japanese promo Mega Tokyo's Pikachu card that also has the Black Diamond NBA stamp on it. So this card's pretty maxed out in terms of grading. This card sold for $10,208 this week. And then here is the 2015 XY Japanese promo Festa Event Organizer Pikachu card that sold for $17,400 as a PSA 10. And then lastly on alt, we have this CGC 8 2000 Super Secret Battle Best in Japan Japanese #1 trainer card that sold for a staggering $43,426. And then our last auction block we're going to cover is from Golden. Here is a CGC7 Disco Hollow Shadowless Test Print Alakazam that sold for $4,270, while this CGC 7.5 Disco Hollow Venusaur sold for $4,887. And then the CGC 7 Disco Hollow Chansey sold for $5,189. Here we have a CGC authenticated test print of Raichu and I guess Poliwrath. I'm not sure, I just see Raichu there, but this card sold for $2,806. And then here is a Japanese base set Charizard test print card that sold for $9,272. And another one here sold for $11,590. We had a base 2 Charizard come by as a PSA 10 that sold for $5,795. Here we have a Dragonite Japanese beta presentation card that sold for $10,980. A Mewtwo beta presentation card that sold for $10,431, and then a beta presentation Venusaur card authenticated by CGC and sold for $10,980. Here's a Blastoise that sold for $14,640, and the Charizard sold for the most here in terms of these beta presentation cards, selling for $40,565. And then on to some sealed product at Golden Auctions. Here are 2 boxes of the Japanese XY Break Mario and Luigi Special Box Collections that sold for $8,845. Here we have a Red Logo Jungle Booster Box. One sold for $8,133. This other one here sold for $7,747. Here's a first edition Fossil Booster Box that sold for $12,488. And then here we have the Japanese factory sealed starter deck box featuring 10 boxes total that sold for $10,676. Here is a first edition Gym Challenge Booster Box that sold for $17,710. And then here we have an unlimited base set booster box signed by Gary and Steve Aoki and sold for $18,307 this week. Here we have an uncut sheet of the holos from Fossil that sold for $9,150. And then we saw this 2016 World's Championship Seniors Rafael Soto #4 trainer card. I might have butchered his name there, but this card sold as a PSA 9 for $22,570. And then for our last 2 auctions, we have this authenticated autographed Ishihara GX that sold for $30,875. And if you don't know, I believe this is the president, or this was the president of the Pokemon Company. So this card is no stranger to high numbers. And then we saw this guy right here, which is the auction of the week. It is this authenticated Doug Ferguson GX Black Star promo. This is a retirement card. I believe he was the senior vice president at the Pokemon Company. So this was like a retirement style card for him back in 2019, and it sold for $61,000. Man, the auctions of the week just keep getting better and better. This material writes itself, folks. What do you think of these auctions? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to go check out lowpopping.com. Let me know what you get from there. That's all I got today, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll catch you in my next one.